Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of my Project Joshi Devlogs. Now, quite a lot has happened between now and the last devlog episode, so I'm just going to jump straight into it because there's a lot to cover. So, the first thing I'm going to mention is the arrow above my character's head. Um, so, I've changed the movement system so that rather than pushing a particular direction and you'll move in that direction, what actually happens is you'll be rotating this arrow. And whichever direction this arrow is pointed towards, the character will be moving in that direction. So it's pointed here to my character's left. So if I hit the walk button, my character will walk in that direction. And as I rotate this arrow, the character will follow. And I also currently have a toggling system as well for walking and sprinting. So currently I'm not pressing any buttons and my character is moving. The only time I'm pressing a button is when I'm rotating the arrow. And it's the same thing with sprinting. If I just move this direction and I hit the sprint button, my character starts sprinting, and I need to tap the sprint button again to make my character stop. So that's the first change I've made. The next one is a target marking system. So when we walk over to our opponent, a few things will happen. You'll see a widget, which I'll explain a little bit later. But you'll notice that there's a marker, a pink marker above his head. This is just used to signify that this is our current character on our current character in focus. So say there are 3 characters right here, 3 opponents. If we decide to do a move, we will only interact with this character who's been marked. So we will just ignore the other ones. And as we walk away from this character, the marker goes away. And if we walk back to him, the marker will show again. So yeah, that's just something that's just going to help with targeting and making sure that you're locked onto the right opponent in the future. Now, unlike the last devlog, there were ropes, but there was no collision with the ropes and there was no logic. So now I have actually programmed some rope bouncing. So let's move towards the ropes, and as you see, we now have rope bouncing. So that's something I implemented. It took me a while to figure out. I'm not quite sure if this is the final rendition of how it's going to be, but it's okay for now. It works. So it's a little bit exaggerated, the bouncing, but I can always just fix that. Another thing to note with the ropes is that the ropes sets the character to automatically run. So if we hit the ropes, I'm not pressing any buttons now, and our character is just automatically running between each rope, back and forth, as you can see. So in order to stop him from doing that, I can just press the sprint button, or I can press the walk button, and he'll stop. Another thing you may have noticed is that his running speed increases as he's running off the ropes. So this is what it currently is, and then as soon as he hits the ropes, his speed increases. So maybe if I do this, it'll be a better demonstration. So he's running, hits the ropes, and now he's running a lot faster. Now there's obviously no animation, so you can see that like when he hits the ropes, he kind of snaps and changes direction. That's obviously going to change. I just haven't had time to do an animation for that, but yeah, that's definitely going to change at some point, because it just doesn't look that great now. But I just wanted to make it so that he's just moving in this direction, you know. So I think it'll be a pretty simple fix just to slap an animation onto that. Now I'm gonna showcase some of the changes I've made to how moves are performed in this game. So I don't know if you watched the last episode, but the way it worked was there were buttons on screen and you basically clicked on buttons to perform whichever move you wanted. I've completely removed that system now, and I've made it so that well, I'll just show you. You press F. I'm going to be pressing F to do the power bomb motion, and I've actually I forgot to, because I was messing around with the animation blueprint, so I don't have all my animations, so it's going to look weird, but it doesn't really matter too much, because it's just the logic that I'm showcasing here. So if we do our power bomb, as you can see, his hands are by his side. It's not supposed to look like this, but yeah, I was testing some things in the animation blueprint. So, but in any case, so as you can see, we currently have some codes. We have the numbers 121 to do a power bomb and lift. We have 231 to do an alley oop, and we have 313 to do transition to front slam. So what these numbers are, for the time being, is just the numbers on our keyboard. How it's going to work is, if you can imagine, if you have your controller, let's take a PlayStation controller, and let's just say the triangle button is button 1, the circle button is button 2, the X button is button 3, and circle is button 4, right? Just for an example. So to do these moves, we would need to do 121, so that would be pressing triangle, then circle, and then triangle, and that's how you would do the first move. And then for the second move, you would do circle, then X, and then triangle, and then the third move would be X, triangle, and then X. So that's kind of how I want the system to be, as opposed to just clicking buttons. So I have it set up that if I press 121 on my keyboard, I do this move. Okay. One thing to note as well is I have it currently set up so I'm queuing these animations. So as soon as I'm done performing this move, or rather before I'm done doing this move, I'm going to press 121 again, and it's automatically going to do another move. So I hit 121 and then 121 again, and as you can see, it does the next move, because I did the same input again, and it queued the animation. So it's kind of like a playlist, really. So once it's done with this animation, and then you tell the system, okay, I want to do another animation, you can do that. You don't have to wait for the animation to be performed in order to do the next animation. And I can show this with the transition. So if I do 121 and then 313, as you can see, it will transition into the other animation. And as you can see, again, I've forgotten to implement the animation, so it just looks kind of weird right now. But yeah, it's just the kind of logic that I'm kind of going for. It's kind of, if you guys have ever played Tekken or Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, these fighting games that take these specific inputs that you can sort of queue up. Like for example, Tekken has like chain grabs, right? Like if you play King or Nina or any of these characters, they have kind of these moves where like you do the first entry into the move, and then you do subsequent inputs, and then you get the next entry in the grapple anime. I mean, it'd be better if I could show you. But if you've played Tekken and you're familiar with Tekken, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's the exact same target I'm reaching for, because when you do these moves, I want it to be a situation where, okay, so you do a power bomb, so then you can go straight into another power bomb, or you can go for a pin, or you can go for a submission, like straight from these power bombs. You know, they branch into each other, and that's the exact kind of system that I'm going for. You know, so if we wanted to do a backbreaker and then a fall away slam straight after, we can do that. So 1 2 1 2 3 1, right? It's a cued animation, so there you go. You know, like this is just the kind of system that I'm really. It's taking me a lot of time to figure out how this works because there's not a lot of tutorials, or there's not a lot of information out there for this kind of system. But this is I hope I'm illustrating what exactly it is I'm trying to do here. So that's pretty much going to cover everything. One last thing I would like to mention before I close this video out is I lost this project. I had to remake this from scratch, almost, because my last save got corrupted. So I'm just saying, if you are working in the Unreal Engine and you do have your own project, I highly recommend that you back up your project as often as possible, because I had to do a lot of recoding and rebuilding and copying and pasting to get my old code back, and it wasn't fun. But thankfully, I didn't lose everything, and I'm actually a lot further than I was when I lost my code. And ironically, a lot of the code that I did have, it wasn't very good. So in some respects, it was actually a good thing that I lost my code. But the circumstances surrounding it were not good. So I just wanted to mention, you know, if you're working on your projects, I highly recommend that you back up your projects as often as you can. So I think that's going to be it. If you've made it this far, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And I'll see you guys in the next one.